It's time for some business news, and Ben is talking about the price of petrol because it's been going up, hasn't it, Ben? And maybe it'll keep going up.
Yeah, it could go up even further today. There's a big meeting that could affect the price. Thanks very much. Morning to you too. These are the decisions that will be made later by a group of 13 countries that can have a big impact on what we end up paying at the pump. Now, the group known as OPEC determines how much countries will produce and, as a result, how much everything will cost. Lately, there's been too much supply, and that simply has pushed down prices. Good news for us, but of course not good news for them. But as John said, it's been creeping back up. So it started with this, the wholesale price. That's what refineries buy for. It was around $115 a barrel. That was back in 2014. But as you can see, falling sharply to around $26 in January this year before creeping back up. And you can see now it's back at $50 a barrel. Now, that's been reflected at the petrol pumps too. In 2014, you'll have been paying about £1.30 a litre. You may know that fell to just over £1 earlier this year, but already it's going back up. It's about £1.10 a litre in most places across the country. Well, let's speak to Steve Irwin, who is an oil analyst at Portland Fuel. Steve, good morning.
Morning, Ben.
I've run through the numbers there of what we've seen with the wholesale price and then what we pay at the pump. OPEC meets today. Just talk us through what may happen or indeed what might not happen.
Well, I think there's wide expectation in the market that we won't get any agreement at the OPEC meeting today. But there is a possibility that OPEC will agree to cap their production levels at a certain level, around about 30 million barrels a day. If they decide to do that, we may see a spike in prices because the market isn't generally expecting that to happen.
Now, the power of OPEC has been an interesting one. Normally, when they acted, prices went crazy accordingly, either up or down, depending what OPEC decided. That power has been waning a little bit, hasn't it? Because we've got new people, new players in the game, particularly the Americans with shale gas, and that's meant there's been a flood of cheaper oil in some respects onto the market. We've ended up with too much.
It has, yes. So the American shale production has really increased the supply, which has driven down prices, and that's why we're in a low price environment at the moment. The problem is that prices have fallen too far, which is putting a lot of those shale oil producers out of business, and it means that that supply is now being taken off the market, and that's why we're getting prices edging back up now. We're going to find a level at some point whereby the two balance out, which will allow some shale oil producers to produce oil and meet the demand, but also at a level that's not too high that brings too much oil back to the market.
OK, so that's a wholesale picture. What about what we pay at the pumps? Because that's the bit that affects all of us. And many people will say, look, we've seen big falls off in the price of wholesale oil, but we only see a little change in what we pay at the pump. And there's a lot of reasons for that.
There are. I mean, if we look at the wholesale prices, but the price you pay at the pump is also made up of duty, and there's also VAT on that, and then there's a lot of smaller costs that contribute to the final price paid. If you look at the wholesale element of the price at the pumps, we've seen it drop by 30p a litre, which is around about 70% of the total price of that constituent. And so that's about the same that oil has dropped overall in that period.
So briefly, what we're expecting today, either a decision or not from OPEC, that could affect what we pay at the pump. We're expecting it to rise consistently, and I think that's the issue. It'll go above that £1.10 a litre.
If we see a decision to cap production, we could see prices rise by another 2p a litre at the pumps, something of that kind of order.
OK, Steve, one we'll watch very closely, Steve Irwin there from Portland Fuel. So keep an eye out at the prices at the pumps. They could start rising again, even though we've seen big changes in wholesale prices. We'll have details of that OPEC meeting for you, of course, tomorrow. More later. See you then.
Look forward to it, Ben. Thanks very much.